7 folks here, so we're going to go ahead and get started. If anybody wanted to speak in public forum or on any agenda item, there's the sign-up sheet over here. If you want to turn that in to me, you're welcome to do so. If not, we will get started on the process. Do you have one, Judge? Do you have one?
I did.
Oh, got it.
I didn't bring it over.
No worries,
so.
no problem. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. We're going to go ahead and go through introductions briefly. We've got Zoom set up, so anybody that wants to watch back, they can see this presentation and who's involved in the committee. But we'll go ahead and get started. We have several people out tonight, so just wanted to make notes of who's all involved. Yeah, there's a lot on the screen, isn't there? Let's see.
So
That person was in the waiting room that you did not let them in.
Oh. You let them in. So we'll keep watching that. Bear with us as I am tech support. Of course, thank you to Dustin for getting us set up with IT here tonight. Narrow this down. Okay, well, y'all can see, I'll talk to what we're speaking on, but the agendas are up at the front. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at them. We're gonna go ahead and call to order the meeting. We did it at 5:31, establish a quorum. We have 7 members here tonight, which is our minimum for a quorum. So we are gonna go ahead and move forward with introductions. We haven't done this yet, but this is just for everybody to see. Our first member out tonight, that's gonna be Mr. William Myers. He is the Executive Director of Bedco. He's out on vacation, so we hope he's having a good time today. But he is out for today. Also out tonight is Drew Ferris, local resident and business owner, as well as finance manager of North Texas. His father's here for proxy purposes, but you know, Drew is out tonight, so we won't hold it against him too much. And then we got Miss Di Hopkins. She wants to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Doc.
Yeah.
Miss Valentina.
Which I pulled these pictures offline, so they did not pre-approve these. I will make that. We've got Mr. Curtis Smith, if he wants to introduce himself.
I'm Curtis Smith. That's pretty simple.
All right. We got Mr. Jeff here. He's sitting in the crowd tonight, but proxy sits in. That is Adam here with us tonight.
I do not approve that picture.
You're the one that didn't have the greatest picture of the bunch, I will say. But,
I would have taken the stash picture that
that's true. We'll call Miss Stephanie Liebel. She is also not here tonight, but she's an owner of Blessings and Butterflies in downtown Bonham, as well as a previous lake lot owner. Also out tonight is Dan Cooper. He is the developer of Cypress Point on Bodark Lake and the first bid to come to Bodark Lake. His proxy is also out, so he is going to be absent tonight. We got Mr. Gary Mills, if he wants to introduce himself.
I'm Gary.
All right. And last page, lots of introductions. We got Mr. Jason Kahn, our North Texas fishing guide and expert out here on Bodark Lake. And of course, you got me. And of course, don't forget Commissioner Doug Kopp is sitting in for our commissioner side. Just want to call everybody here today.
I broke the camera, so we didn't get it.
Yeah, unfortunately, you didn't get a picture. You know, I couldn't fit it on one slide, so you get no face.
My hair fell out.
Oh. All right, moving on from introductions, we'll move to public forum. I have 1 sign up, so we'll go ahead and listen to Judge Newt Cunningham. You want to speak in public forum?
I'm sort of giving everybody a high sign. I don't know which one's appropriate. There are multiple ones. But we are coming up on a deadline for filing or nominating opportunity zones. Now, we've got certain tools that are available to us as developers, as a county. We got PIDs, we got TERS, we got abatements. All of them are a little bit different, and we have opportunity zones. Now, what is an opportunity zone? An opportunity is an area that a county or a municipality can designate, and it has to meet certain qualifications. It's got to be a underdeveloped area. I think if you look at the numbers, your poverty rate has to be over 21%. and your income levels can't be, or an alternative can't be over 70% of what's going on in the rest of the state, you need a poor area. If you have a poor area, you can qualify for special tax treatment. Now, the lovely thing about this for me is it's not the county giving you a deal or the state giving you a deal, it's the federal government giving you a deal. Now, most of us wouldn't be interested, but if you are interested, give you an example. If I sold my business for $100 million and I made a $60 million profit, I might get hit with some sort of tax. You know, if I played it right, it'd be a very low tax, but still, if I come to a opportunity zone, I can develop in that zone. I can take my $60 million, buy a piece of property, and avoid taxation on that particular profit. No capital gains tax if I play by the rules. And how do the rules work? Come in, buy my property, let's say part of our area, a lot of our area qualifies as poor enough for somebody to nominate an area. The city of Bonham, basically Bonham Development, Economic Development Board has designated an area or nominated an area. Now, is your nomination to be accepted? Not necessarily. It goes to the state of Texas. The state of Texas looks at it, they prioritize them, and they send them to the federal government. The federal government looks at them and makes a decision. Right now, being from a red state isn't a bad thing. If we nominate something and it gets in there and it gets approved at the higher level, we can have somebody come in here and put $60 million in. If they don't touch it for 10 years, they wipe away their they wipe away their tax that would have been owed. And we get something nice out of it that we don't have to pay for. And the sad thing is, guys, we're gonna be paying for somebody else's if we don't get some for ourselves. And we're coming up at the end of the month, I think we're gonna have nominations made. There's some people out there who are coming around asking for the county to nominate particular areas. They've already gone out and done the research. It's sort of an open door of what sort of investment they make. Normally it's gotta be some sort of storefront that's gonna generate business. Apparently the green folks, and I'm talking about people who want to develop messes or want to do data centers or want to do that sort of stuff, there are other tax advantages for them that they can receive. But this is for as a guy who's just sold his business and doesn't want to pay any capital gains tax. Opportunities there, we've got about a month to look at it. There are people who want to do it, and my question to myself is, the county want to nominate an area? That doesn't mean we're gonna get it, but sort of like trying to get money for 121. We put up $1.5 million with the understanding that we'd get $1.5 million, we'd get $150 million if they developed it, and that's been several years, and we haven't, we pledged it, but we haven't been chosen. Opportunity.
26th of June is the deadline, Newt.
Yes, sir, 1 month. We're running out of time. And we've got a couple of people out there who are knocking on the door, but I want everybody to be aware of it.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Judge. Anybody else want to speak in public forum before we close public forum for the day? Going once, going twice. All right. Moving on to agenda item 3, this is the approval of minutes from the May 12th, 2026 regular meeting. If everybody has had a chance to review that or not review it, I guess let me know if there's any changes needed. I wrote down all the motions, so hopefully those are accurate this go around. But yeah, I guess I will open it up, see if we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We got a motion from Commissioner Cobb.
I'll second.
We got a second from Di Hopkins. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All voted. Perfect. All right. Now on to the business. So, agenda item number 4, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the future land use map for Bodark Lake. So, after this morning, there is no further action at this time. Di worked really hard getting us to this point, pulling all the parcels together. Let me show you next steps as to what we actually did behind the scenes. So Di went ahead and identified all the parcels along US 82 within the buffer zone of Bodark Lake. So there were some bubbles that kind of come down along the US 82 stretch. And within those buffer zone areas, we had requested to change the future zoning from whatever it currently is to be commercial in the future. Does not change your zoning today, it does not change your taxing today. It simply gives the landowner the choice if they want to change their zoning from ag, residential, whatever it's currently in, to commercial, and going through the process. So we were successful. Public notice went out in the Fannin County Leader. It went out because this committee voted to send letters to all the individuals impacted, as well as 200 feet around the impacted parcels. So all of them received notice. To my knowledge, there were 0 protests. So overall, pretty good when it comes to, public notice. We typically see a couple of those come through. We met with the Bodark Lake Zoning Commission on the 4th of this month. They unanimously approved. They called out, one of the key things they were hung up on was, why didn't we do it in a bigger block? Why didn't we do it all at once with 897, 1396, and 82 all together? The reason we did that was, one, we wanted to see how the process was going to work. This is a lot of parcels we're talking about. It's a lot of work on Di, and we wanted to make sure that, we were moving forward, making the corrections as needed, and we just don't know what the marina placement is gonna be. We don't know what the park placement's truly gonna be. So until those are ironclad, we've got true documentation to know exactly where those are going in. It's not time to rezone in the future the bridge or 1396. We need to know where the hot spots are going to be. So that's why we opted to do US 82. We know that is gonna be a major corridor. It's one of the primary corridors around this lake. So that's why we honed in on it first, just for some background. And then as of this morning, Commissioners Court also unanimously approved the future land use map. So at this point, US 82 looks quite different on our future land use map. I'll flip over. Hopefully it'll load, give us some good visuals. Pretty hard to see on this screen back here, but this is the current future land use map. This is whenever you look up the comprehensive plan from 2016, this is what you see in that document. So this is what we decided to make some updates to. Di did some hard work and gave us a snapshot of what truly is the current future land use map with the updated zoning changes today. So this is gonna include properties from the city of Bonham that have already been flipped over out of the buffer zone, some properties that have already been rezoned commercially. So this is just giving you a true picture of what it looks like today with the future land use map overlay. And then this last slide is what we actually presented. And you can see the change at the very bottom. There's a bunch of red that popped up. I'll flip back and then I'll flip back one more time. You can see US 82, there's a bunch of red that pops up along that roadway. If I flip one more time, and it gets much more red down along US 82. So strategically, we had pulled out all the properties that are in the flood zone, North Texas properties, anything that isn't going to be realistically buildable was removed from this. In theory, these are gonna be properties that have the potential to be a business in the future around the lake, is the premise behind it. But again, it is up to the landowner and their choice if they decide to go through the zoning process to move forward with changing their zoning to commercial. This just gives them an opportunity to, and just kind of signals to outside people coming to the lake of, in the future, this is more likely going to be your commercial corridor moving forward for planning purposes. So just wanted to call that out, and I guess, Di, if there's anything else you want to add to that, you're welcome to do so.
Let me add something.
Okay, go ahead.
The gray area is open to commercial. The gray area is not designated. So there's a lot of gray area that can be either or, and, which includes commercial. So be aware of that. This isn't a major change in what can be developed along 82.
Correct, yeah, because the county gets authority to zone. That's not very common with counties, but this lake gives the unique authority with the 5,000 foot buffer. So the county was able to enforce a sense of future zoning here. And as you mentioned, that area that is gray is outside of the buffer zone, and until the county gets much larger in population, that is where businesses can still end up. It just will not have the same restrictions and layers as it would be in the buffer. So, wanted to call that out. Any questions, I guess, on the future land use map? I guess we will table it until we get some more information at this time.
Yes, I can't see from here.
No worries.
At the end of 1396, the green circle, what's those words beside the green circle, the definition?
You know, great question. Is it in the middle of the page? Kind of,
I
sort
think
of?
Boat, three
that's the
boat
boat
ramp.
ramp.
Yeah.
Boat ramp, sorry, the green circle.
The three boat
Potential
ramp.
recreation
Three
area.
boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is your three key access points of the lake. So you got the 897 boat ramp, which is the circle in the middle of the page at the bridge. And then you've got your north and south 1396 boat ramps, that straddle on the farther right east side of the page here. They have circles on the map, so we had to keep the circles on the map, is how that worked. But in terms of, you know, the language on there, I think that's just showing you the abandoned road of
Well, I
1396.
saw in the newspaper today where Belle got some kind of environmental sewer right there at the end of 1396 and County Road 2985.
Yes.
So
So what's Belle V?
Belle was a planned development subdivision which was high density, but it's determined only, it can only go forward if they have a sewage treatment plan. And that goes in front of TCEQ on July the 7th as a contested hearing. Because, North Texas Municipal Water District contested the application, so it does have to have a hearing. As far as I really know, Belle is kind of stalled out, but they are continuing with the permitting for the discharge of the wastewater, because that's probably the only way they can sell it for what they have into it.
And that property is currently on the market today. That whole Peninsula Point is about 100 acres. They have listed for $22 million today.
Did they come down to
So,
22?
They did come down 3 million just a
Okay.
couple days ago, so it's a bargain. But that is, hopefully answers your question about Belle in that area. Any other questions on the future land use map conversation? All right, we'll jump into our next topic. Discussion only today. This is just kind of get everybody some visibility and obviously open it up to the public for some input. We're in very, very early stages. You know, there's no promises as always. But we do have some positive information about a potential park on Bodark Lake and the process moving forward. So let me give you a snapshot of the area that we are looking to target. It's a little tough to see. Maybe turn those lights out over there. Thanks to Ernie coming in and being my light man. But this is a snapshot from the drone looking at the north 1396 boat ramp. So that future land use map we were just looking at, it was the top right circle on that page. So this is a look from the shoreline directly at the old 1396 that's been covered in water. Looking down 1396, further down you'll see the Bodark Mud Tower, if you're familiar where that is. As well as your boat ramp off to the left side of the image here. And this is really to show you, we're looking at roughly a 50-acre area at this end cap, pretty much following that tree line. You can see clearly there's a property backed up to the boat ramp. That's not included, but the tree line does pretty reasonably follow the property boundaries here. So this is just to give you a look at the area that we're taking a look at. Here's a different angle from the side to show you what's already existing. So you can see the boat ramp, a little bit more in there is their trash cans. They've got bathrooms as well as covered picnic tables. So lots of good things already there. And another big reason why we think this is a great site location to turn into a park. So we have spoken with North Texas, and you know, everything is at their discretion. At the end of the day, there's still a lot of agreements to get through, but they are open to working with us in turning this into a park area. So we have spoken about this particular site. They are in agreement and alignment that this is probably the best location for a park on this lake at this time. You know, there's a lot of ambitious things that we can come up with, and that's kind of what we're here today, is to brainstorm with the public, brainstorm with the committee members, and just talk about next steps realistically at what we're looking at. This is gonna be a pretty extensive process. I will be realistic with everybody, but I am hopeful. We've got a lot of good people involved and a lot of people that want to be involved, that I think this will be a success in the short term. So moving on to kind of next steps here of what I expect immediately in the next 90 days. So really part of this meeting is step one of confirming the park vision and the desired amenities. What do we really want to see here? Is that sand volleyball? Is that pickleball? Are you looking for, you know, more bathrooms here? Are you looking for walking trails? We want to know what are the types of things you would like to see at a park around Bodark Lake. This will give us an idea of what to plan for. There's no promises, of course, but we'll be able to get site plans built out with an engineer, understand what's possible and what's not possible, and then based on that, be able to go and get bid estimates to get a total project cost, so we can have some more informed conversations. So we are at step 1 as of today, is confirming the park vision and desired amenities. Step 2, we will be meeting with an engineer and contractor teams. Graciously, we do have an engineer that has dedicated his services to the project, so very big deal. It's a big expense when it comes to this, so we're very grateful to our committee member, Mr. Adam over there, for volunteering his services to this project. So that'll be a really big deal. He has worked with North Texas before, so I think that'll help streamline this process overall. Also, we did have a general contractor that stepped up on the committee as well to manage this project. So Mr. Jeff in the back there, thanks so much to him. Really big deal. Those are 2 big ticket items cost-wise that we do not have to fund. So that's a very big deal, and we're very grateful for their donation of their services to this. The other side of the story is there's a lot of infrastructure already here, right? We're trying to be cost effective because in reality, the county doesn't have the dollars to support this. So we gotta figure out how we're going to make this realistic for us to fundraise, as well as find grants that are gonna match those contributions so that it is cost effective for the county, as well as providing public access for the people of Fannin County is the goal here. So next steps, we've got, develop some site plans, some conceptual layouts. I'm guesstimating we're gonna get about 2 to 3 different options. In a dream world, we get a reality of bare minimum, maybe all we get is walking trails here. Maybe that's all we can do in this scenario. We got phase 2, which is your plan B concept, which is a little bit higher than your walking trails, right? You got walking trails, and maybe you got a sand volleyball court, and that's all we can add on to. And then your last one, which is everything you could ever want. We want a beach over there, we want a swimming area, we want playgrounds, all the full 9 yards. So scaling it out to be able to give some sense of reality will give us a good idea on cost and be able to have some informed conversation with North Texas to say, can we do this? Can we not do this? And allow to continue that partnership that way. And I kind of touched on that. Obtain preliminary costs is step 4. So once we kind of lay out our plans, get a good idea of what the people want, get a good idea that we're on this right track with North Texas, we can start to go out to all of our local contractors, get some bids that have inflation adjustments, so that way when actually this is going to happen sometime that next year, hopefully, we'll already account for that inflation cost and be able to move forward with some educated conversations on cost. So that'll be a big piece of understanding the total project cost before we move forward with the county, with North Texas, get an agreement in place. Now, that is an unknown timeline. That will be a negotiation, so I can't guarantee exactly how long that's going to take, but that will be the next step. Is this committee is gonna work hard to get all those details in a package to present, and the county and North Texas are gonna come to an agreement, and from there, based on what they agree, is what we'll move forward with on setting it up. We have the potential, still a little bit of an unknown to me. This is a very new process. I'm not a grant writer. I've never written a grant. I don't know anything about nonprofits, but we know a lot of people that do. So that'll be a big step, is possibly setting up a nonprofit to where this money is gonna go into. So that way, somebody can oversee from a financial side. That way, any donations that we get is sitting in an account, not sitting with the county. It's completely separate. So that way there's a lot more control for the grant process. So we'll be working on that as step 6. And then lastly, once we get through all of that process, I would say realistically this is gonna be simultaneous. We'll be collecting stakeholder support, letters of support, and donations as we move forward. The donations wait until after the nonprofit, but getting some letters of support from your chambers of commerce, from your local school districts, from any entities like a BEDCO, like the county, all of those things are great proving points when you go to file for a grant. That gives you a better likelihood of receiving that grant. So we have a lot of work to do before the end of this year. I hope this committee's ready. But we have 6 meetings before the end of the year, with this one being included. Fairly confident that we'll be ready to go for the 2027 time. That key goal for this year is to be grant ready by the end of this year. We have enough time, in my opinion, this next 6 months to really hammer down, get the plans in place, get our cost estimates down, get the county and the North Texas to meet and come to an agreement to where when 2027 opens, we'll hit the ground running, ready to file our applications for these grants. and hopefully receive them. Once we actually start receiving the grants, that'll give us a really good idea of how much money we actually are working with, so we can make the judgment call on what's gonna break ground on groundbreaking day at this point. So, lots of information, but I'll take a pause here for any questions, anything coming to mind at the moment.
I just have a slight question that
Yes.
might not be of any relevance. We own 2 lots, at the point
Yes, ma'am.
of Bois, like, and so our closest boat ramp is on 897.
Yes, ma'am.
The boat ramp on, off of 1396 does not, to me, seem like it's used as much as the one on 897. Is there some reason why we feel like it would be better for us to do the park there?
Yeah.
As opposed to the one off, or close to the one on 897?
It's a great question, and yes, there's a few reasons behind it. So,
Mhm.
the 897 boat ramp is your most active, so with the dream bake scenario, we want a beach here for swimmers, and boats and swimmers don't typically mix, is typically what we see. So, with how much activity we typically see at that ramp, and the steep drop-offs around that shoreline, it's a boat dockable area, so the shoreline is much more elevated, so the swimming area is not as ideal in that sense.
So it's really more key for boats?
Correct, it is more of a boater spot.
That's
and-
okay.
Yeah, no worries.
We have a boat slip at the marina
Oh, that's
anyway,
good.
so that's okay.
Well, that's good.
Just curious as to, you know,
Yeah,
what
yes,
else.
yes, Judge.
Yeah, I think a little bit of it, the lake, I'm talking about North Texas, talked to us some years ago, and this is what they offered.
Oh, okay.
This is what they said, what would you think of this as a park? They didn't come, we didn't say, no,
Okay.
give us that. We,
Yeah.
So, took
Yeah.
your suggestion, right?
So there's a few
Okay.
things happening, right? You know, all those
Just
are playing
curious,
into it,
yeah.
and that's part of their decision. And then, you know, we went and had a conversation, said, would you give us a park? How much land can we get?
Exactly.
And this is what they came back with, saying that that north boat ramp is their ideal location. So we said, great. They started with 10 to 20 acres, now we're at 50 acres, so we'll see where we end up. But overall, it's a great location. A lot of the infrastructure is already there, which is a big deal. Those, you know, parking being number 1, bathrooms being number 2, having those available already sets us up for success to where it's just an
And
add-on.
ultimately, we have to have the approval by North Texas. and
Exactly.
Water, and so, if
Yeah.
they think this is a good place, then we gotta go.
Exactly,
attend.
so
Okay,
playing that
got it.
game a little bit.
Got
Can
it.
I, say something?
Yes, absolutely.
Sure.
Also, the north side of the lake is sandy.
Oh,
The
okay.
south side is black gumbo.
It
So
is.
if you want a
It
beach,
is.
it's gonna have to be on the north
It's
side.
flat too on the north
Yeah.
side. Flat.
So the elevation,
Yeah,
there's
in fact,
a lot of
it's not
things that
ideal
went
to
into
get
it.
shelf.
To swim and all that.
Yeah,
The traffic too alone at 897 is madhouse.
Yeah.
on
It
weekends
is.
with boats, so
It's a
you
lot.
have to
You
park.
wouldn't
Do you
be able to
happen to
park.
have the picture of, with the, highlighted, border of the?
I don't have the
park area?
border, but, you know, threw this in there, but actually,
You Get a fishing pier
I
on that
know
point too.
you sent it to me in
Fishing
photo
pier.
mode.
I had a different one. But here, I'll stand up there and show everybody what we were discussing. We had some preliminary conversations to get a good feel of, you know, is this the area we wanna tackle? We talked about, you know, a potential fishing pier. You know, you see, you've got your 3 or your 2 boat lanes really here. 50% of the year, these have been closed down due to the water level. They didn't dredge this one out fully, so we don't see as much boating activity in this particular boat ramp from what we've seen historically. It typically shuts down when we're 2 feet under full pool. So at the 532 elevation, they shut this down. You're not allowed to put your boat on the water with these ramps. It's open, they just put these big old cinder blocks from keeping you, put that boat in the water. So that is, one of the things, we talked about this particular area here being more of your beach zone. You got potential for playgrounds, you know, there's this big point. There's a lot of unknowns, and one thing I'll mention is this is all flood zone outside of one small piece. So we have to be a little bit smart in how we do this, because physical structures may not work in a lot of this area, right? So your gazebos and things like that, we're gonna have to take into account what things can be in flood zones, as well as what is North Texas going to approve in their 100-year floodplain, their 500-year floodplain, because we run into those issues a lot, as it requires a lot of permitting. You know, we gotta get pre-approval, so all of that is a part of this process. It's something I wanna call out. Although this looks like a perfect point, sometimes this is going to be underwater, and we have to account for that in the future. So realistically, we were talking about a beach up in this area. Playground, we've got a big cul-de-sac right here, a turnaround here, where I see some form of solar lights being there in the future, probably where you'd want a playground closer to the road, further from the water, with the children. And again, you've got your boat ramp. I had a preliminary, map here where I saw a kayak or paddleboard launch of some sort, just getting more access to the water for your average boat. But overall, everything is up in the air. It is simply a brainstorm, and we're here today to open it up to the committee, open it up to the public, to give some input on what you would like to see in this particular area. Over here, off to, I guess technically it's the north, when you're looking at it this direction, this wooded area over here is actually a lot less wooded in the aerial view of it. But that is where I anticipate a lot more of your walking trails to be, more of that interconnected walking trail on that side that wraps around. This being more of your amenity beach area, realistically, because there's a clear divide. We gotta be careful about tree cutting. They're very strict about how many trees we can cut, the size of the trees. So we really wanna keep it as is as possible while still getting more access to the public is the key goal here. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight, but I will open it up.
How far north does it go?
So it's gonna go all the way up to this far corner. There's a property with a brand new house right up there, and it ends just where that stop share button is. So you can see it goes a little bit past the boat ramp entrance that comes and winds down. It's just a hair further, and it cuts across and really just follows that tree line up there. I'll come up with a better photo in future meetings so y'all can follow along a lot cleaner. But overall, it is the end cap of the north boat ramp. Will give you a pretty good idea. If you really want to dive deep into it, it is on the Fannin CAD, where you can see the parcels and kind of play around and get familiar with that spot as well. But it's looking at 50 acres, about 35 acres with the boat ramp, and roughly 23-ish acres on that wooded side that you see right up in this area here. Any other questions?
I got a question.
Yes.
What's the average size? I mean, like you go to these other lakes and stuff, what, for a park area, what's the range? I mean,
It's a good question. I'm not sure. But, part of our research process, that'll definitely be something to look at is comparable parks on other lakes. What has other lakes been able to successfully put in place? How big are they on average? I mean, it's gonna be nothing like Frisco's 1,000-acre park that I just heard about.
Yes.
So that's very massive. So we'll take it in walking form, not running form with that, but we'll compare other lakes and see what kind of park concepts they've done more recently and what we can kind of replicate. There's a lot of different things happening in the park world in Texas right now.
That ramp's open now, probably.
Did they open it? Oh, I was
It's
wondering.
open today.
Sweet, okay, North Boat Ramp's open for
That being
now.
said, that's very shallow. All that
Yes.
area is very
If it
shallow.
goes below 2 feet under, it will close again, but for now it's open. Yes,
So,
Mrs. Lynn.
Texas will continue to operate the boat ramp in that area, the parking lot.
In theory, they would still manage the closure of that boat ramp.
But also,
Beyond that,
I
maintenance
guess-
would be on the county.
But I guess they operate the restrooms, the trash.
That's a part of that negotiation, I believe, is, that next step between county and North Texas, who's gonna take responsibility. I think at the end of the day, they're always gonna control who's getting into the water, who's getting out of the water for a fact. For the rest of it, it is a negotiating piece at this time, so we will see what happens, when we get there at that phase. But we are accounting that, maintenance will be needed, lawn care will be needed for this, so that'll be baked into the cost of the grant to make sure, at least we have a cushion there. If we don't have it in the funds now, it'll be in the funds later, so we will work through that process to account for maintenance, by the county being included in this process for funding. Any other questions or any ideas on what you'd like to see at a park on Boat Ark Lake?
I think you would wanna put note in for, family reunions, birthday parties, church groups.
Yeah. Gathering area,
Need an alligator net to keep the alligators out.
Just one, I saw one there today.
There was discussion of an RV park.
An RV park, I did hear y'all talking about that. Which would require the 80 something.
3 or 4 day RV park.
3 or 4 day RV park, okay?
That would, yeah, include a
Short.
RSS. I think the discussion with the non-Texas is the water district is if they would allow OSSF in the 500 year process.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Have you talked to North Texas about them dredging that to where they can actually use the boat ramp?
Work has been complete.
They're not gonna touch it. We can do it.
So hence why this is also, it's more of a win-win scenario here is we aren't getting the full use 100% of the time from one of our 3 public access points. So that's why there's an advantage from both parties to re-envision what this should be and convert it into both, 50% of the year, if everything maintains, it still gets used as a boat ramp, but we're also going to add on to it to see how else can we get public access off of this particular point, because I don't believe there are any plans for future dredging work at this time.
When they negotiated, and I don't know the answer to this, but when they negotiated with the county, did they say they was gonna have 3 workable boat ramps?
They did not
All
say-
that stuff was touched on initially, and their whole idea, we didn't negotiate very well, their whole idea was they were never gonna have more than an average of 300 boats on the water at any time. Now that, they use engineers to come up with a shoreline plan that determined the number of boat ramps they could have, the number of docks they could have, and the number of marinas they could have. Marina number, you could probably just have 1, and it can't have more than, it's gotta have about 250 boats to be viable. And there is a formulation that some expert has come up with that says for every parking lot or every parking space you have in a boat launch, you have a boat on the water. For every, dock, you may have, a boat that's out on the water only, 1% or 10% of the time. So and they take all those ratios, docks, marina, and parking spaces, and came up with this 300 boat average. Now, is that gonna hold true? It's gonna fluctuate, but, the formulation is, I think marinas generate more boat activity than private docks. Private docks produce less, and they've got it down to a formulation, and all that stuff was thought out. They, the county at the time said, you control everything south of the shoreline, or inside the lake. So the county really has no say about what goes on in the entire lake and around most of its edge. Our negotiation was flawed, and we didn't get a good deal, but they have been very generous in giving us opportunities to get some things that we probably shouldn't have gotten. And this is one of those freebies.
But will they, if somebody comes up with the money, they would let somebody dredge that out on somebody else's dime?
Then you run into the, Army Corps of Engineers, and you run into permitting, and you run into about a 4-year delay if you're successful. That's if you're successful. And here's the thing you need to get in your mind. To them, this is their cistern, their water source.
Oh, yeah, it's not, it's
Yeah,
not
they
money
don't
for.
want, you wouldn't
the
want
fish
people
out.
swimming in your water source. Now, I don't think it matters that much, but they seem to be very protective of their water, so do people south. But where are we on this? They're offering us this. Our deal is to have to come up with some money to fix it the way they like, the way we like. There's gonna be a compromise. And the more difficult thing on the back end is the commission, county is going to have to be willing to take over maintenance of this thing going forward. And if you've got roads to take care of, and you can't take care of the roads you have, and they're saying, oh, by the way, we want you to take care of this park also, you get a little pushback. So we need money to develop it, and we need some way of maintaining it after it's developed. And anything we do, of course, has got to be approved by North Texas. And what North Texas does for us is maintaining good relationships. with us. It's not done because we have any leverage.
And to answer your question about their contract, what do they actually have in writing? They committed to 3 public access points on this lake, not specific to boat ramps. They just happened to build 3 boat ramps, but they committed to 3 public access points. So hence why this has not been working completely 100% of the time as a boat ramp. That's why we think it's a win-win scenario for both parties to convert this into something that could be even more. And yes, Judge, as he mentioned, you know, maintenance is a big deal. Precinct 3, this is Kurt Fogelberg's precinct, so he will be heavily involved in something like this, and I have taken that into account. Hence why I mentioned, you know, maintenance will be baked into this package and accounted for, so that we have a planning process, whether that's 5 years, 10 years worth of funds, or for maintenance costs. And from that point, you know, we should have enough revenue coming from these properties that I would think maintenance should be manageable at that point. I don't foresee there being any major road changes here. It's straight up to a cul-de-sac and straight into the boat ramp outside of trail work. So again, you know, it's a matter of baking out the packages right, and that's why we're opening this conversation up, because we wanna map it out right up front, have the conversation with North Texas and the county so we get an alignment, and make sure that we all understand what we're in for this park. But at the end of the day, it is in the best interest of the Fannin County residents to have access to this lake, and I think this is one of the main ways to do it. Yes, Jeff?
Regarding 1396, do we know, if that portion of it would be part of the park, or if it would still be a road, if we'd be able to use it as part of the recreation?
That is up for negotiation.
And who is responsible for 1396 right now?
Currently, I believe that TxDOT forfeited that part of the road, if I'm not mistaken. There's a certain point where TxDOT work ends and the county starts. Can't say exactly where that transition happens, but I have a feeling it's before you get right here.
It happens about 3 miles back.
There may
Thank
be,
you.
on 1396 South, there's a state sign that says
Yeah.
no longer being maintained by
Correct.
the state. I haven't looked that closely up there, but I'm assuming there's a sign up there too.
Yeah.
That lets you know that they're not taking care of it.
Yeah, so that's already transitioned and it's already being maintained by precinct 3, for the remainder of that road.
So, Hannah, could I
Yes,
add something?
absolutely.
And I don't know how this will work today, but when I was a kid, I'm from the area that had a lake,
A couple years ago.
and they would charge, a long time ago, yeah, absolutely, that's why it may not be viable today, but they had a lake and they had camping, but they'd charge for the camping, but in the summer, they would hire, you know, students from schools.
Right.
They'd pick up the trash and do all that, they'd have a little booth where they'd collect money when people would come in and stay for the 3 days. And you know, I'm all about creating jobs.
Yep.
And I don't know if kids today will work or not, but we did.
Yeah.
Somebody might.
And it's definitely, you know, an interesting angle with the schools, how much revenue they're getting from the taxes. Could it be a cool program? Potentially. It would require speaking to the ISDs, but I'm not opposed to having those conversations and seeing if they would be open to it. I know Honey Grove has made some strides with, I think it was their welding program in the recent years where they graduated as welders. I'm sure there's somehow, some way we could bake that in, because there has been discussion, you know, do we want this to be a paid thing, or do we want it to be free and open to everybody? Should it be a paid booth where it costs $1 to $3 to get in for the day, there's day pass, there's week pass, or is it just wide open for anybody to get in there for public use? So a lot of those questions are still to be answered, but again, open to public input. And I love the idea of jobs, I love the idea of the county making money however we can. So I think it comes down to, you know, what we wanna put into a package and present.
An observation, there's a lot of state parks in Texas that are managed by snowbirds, come down in RVs, and they watch the parks during the summer when they're real busy, helping out the park rangers, so.
Happens a lot, you know, my grandparents were like that as well. They would help out on the campgrounds wherever they stayed. I mean, it's kind of a tit for tat. If you want to stay here, you're going to clean it up and take care of it. So there's also that possibility. There's a lot of great people out here that are willing to maintain it for free, I'm sure. You just got to find the right person to ask. So that's really where we're at. But I guess any other questions from the committee or the public on this park project as we kind of move forward? We're in super early phases.
I think that the The biggest ask would be for the RV park, and for that, we need to know if there's any electricity available at all, because I don't think the bathrooms have electricity. And so,
Really?
so
They have
both-
solar little lights.
They don't have it.
electricity would be a big thing with an
Probably
RV
at the
park, so
road.
whether it would be, RV park would be the ultimate thing that we'd probably want, or whether it would be step down to basic camping, or whether it would be a park with a beach only.
Yeah.
I think those would probably be the three options. And it could start maybe with a beach only with volleyball or pickle courts, and then maybe step it up in phases.
We walked it today, it's, pretty awesome, especially on that north side of that road. I still wanted to confirm that border there, there's a lot of opportunity for backcountry camping that would just be something special that you can't really find anywhere in North Texas. Where you could just, trail and set up and not have electricity.
Yeah, cause it could end up being more of a tent camping scenario rather than your RV hookups, and those tend to be a little bit more difficult by putting slabs and raising the ground. I mean, cost wise, I think we've run into a little bit of a thing there, but if we bake out the plan, we could have multiple phases of,
And places I've been before that had, basic camping, then you've got generators with RVs, or do you want that and the noise? So I think those are the questions to ask, what we start with first and how we work it out.
Like,
Roberts has some awesome camping, like camp camping, it's really, really cool.
I don't think North Texas would allow septics, like the RV.
that's what we'd have to confirm that with North Texas to see, because we are in the flood zone, that's the biggest thing. Yeah, so, I know there's certain types of septics that exist in flood zones.
You can have a septic in a floodplain, but the question here is not whether it's being in the floodplain, the question is it's being on North Texas water.
Correct.
Because
Yes.
they generally own everything in the 100-foot plain, and then don't even allow anything in the 500-foot plain in the residential areas. So this would probably be quite a big ask.
Yeah, 100%.
One more, and I'm
Yes.
sorry, I
No
noticed,
worries.
did I see some, commercially zoned area in the same area on the other map?
You actually did, and I was looking at that. Let me backtrack a little bit. So let's have a look here. It is, I wonder if it'll let me zoom.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
And
more to show, your public access points, but technically,
Looks like it's.
it looks like it's red from what I can tell. So, I mean, there's always the possibility that you see a small business that tries to go in there, or, just for what we're trying to accomplish, it will probably be a little bit more commercially oriented. Public access points is kind of what it's showing there, but yes, to answer
So
your
that
question.
red area is not within the same, area that's designated for the park then?
Yeah, if you see that
Further
black
inland.
line, it's that little, it's like that weird green thing sprawling off, that's actually this area that we're talking about. So it's a little bit more tucked in off that road, a little bit more. But there's many houses there, I wouldn't say many, but there's houses there that have already been built, so realistically, what business would go there, it would phase out over time. I would expect that to be a up 20 to 30-year concept, but you never know. There's a couple properties that may turn into a bait shop or something else, we don't know.
Or a small resort where
Or
you
small,
can go
yeah.
camping, day camping.
Jet
or enjoy
skis,
the park or
kayak
anything.
rentals, all those kind of things are possibilities.
That 23 acres that Jeff was talking about that was really walkable, if you put, walking trails through there, we walked through, there's a bunch of native plants that were in that area, and some of them were endemic to like just this geographical location. There's a really cool pine tree that's in there, a little short leaf pine.
Yeah.
That's endemic, and we identified one and then looked on the range map, and there wasn't anywhere close on the range map, so.
Huh,
You have some
interesting.
really cool plants that are over there. There's
Yeah.
places like, Lady Bird Johnson Wildlife Center and those different areas that bring the public into the native, experience, and just kinda have a quiet place to go walk
Yeah.
and read a book, and so I'd add that to the trail.
No, it's a good idea, and I love the concept of it being more as like an educational point, where if children do come out, it kinda has the symbol of, this is a bodark tree, this is the pine tree, and these types of birds, have the plaques up. I think Texas Parks and Wildlife will be a good resource for that. We've got TxDOT that'll probably help us out with some different signage, leading up to it as well. in theory, it'll take a little bit of effort, but I think they would work with us in that sense. And I know there's a lot of other groups. I know we've talked about bird watching groups. They may be interested in donating to something like this. The school districts being a big one, you know, what are the likelihoods that they want their students to have something to do after school ends? You know, this is another resource where it could be a field trip destination. I mean, I grew up in Plano personally. We went to the Outdoor Learning Center and we always did those kind of cool things. Whether or not that's feasible out here is debatable, but, you know, having that option I think is a cool idea for the children to be able to use it as an education, you know, hub along the trails. I like the idea of the plaques being kind of like Powder Creek Park in Bonham, how they have a storybook trail. I can see that with a lot more nature stuff, so it's a good call out.
And you can make some good selections from a maintenance standpoint. You're talking about ongoing and future costs. If you
Yeah.
had, baby grasses in there and that sort of thing, you could really significantly reduce your maintenance costs going forward
Definitely.
if you make the right plant selection.
And I've considered reaching out to 007 Nursery, their contact locally up in Telephone, a little past Telephone, but they do specialize in native plants. They're a great resource for the county. I know they help out with Honey Grove a lot. So I have a feeling that if I lean on them a little bit, they may give us some insight on how we can make it manageable for native Texas plants, so the maintenance is a lot less for everybody, and we have designated maintenance areas, and they're areas that are more natural, you don't really have to touch them. So that is being considered also, but it's a good call out. I'd like to keep it very natural as much as we can.
There was a painted bunny, I believe, there too.
Fun.
Not that I'm a bird.
Hey, you never know.
Okay,
Turn
something
into
to
one.
keep in mind is, you know, where people spend money on, number one in the country is bird watching, number two, bass fishing. So you got those two.
Very
And
important.
on-
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very good call out.
Yeah, drawing people in for that, if you did charge a small fee, you had areas to set up for
Right.
bird watching, would be,
Yeah.
bringing a lot of people down.
I think it's a really cool idea, with the bird watching concept. You know, there's a bigger picture with Caddo National Grasslands being so close. I think Texas Parks and Wildlife would be really interested in seeing the bigger vision here. They invested a lot in the fishing for Bodark Lake, so I think there's a lot of cool opportunities. I know at the boat ramp, you know, they have the images of all the fish and making sure, you know where to weigh it and know how to call people for the Share Lunker program. But I think they'd be willing to entertain some conversations about signage and how we can make it as educational and, you know, nature as possible for the people. It's a good call
That
out.
would make it a lot more likely to have grants.
I agree with that, yes. Yeah, we're trying to make it as grant friendly, so definitely more people we can have involved that are supporting it, different nonprofits, different organizations. I think all those different backings will really make us successful in getting a lot more grants. Because there's a big one with Texas Parks and Wildlife, it's a 50% match, up to, I believe it's $750,000. If we can secure that, it is a layering process, is what I've understood. You kind of stack a grant on top of a grant, and they just tend to snowball to where you get a full picture of how much money you can get. I know I have reached out to the governor's office as well, with their tourism sector. We have a resource, there as well that said there's a lot of opportunities through the state. So I think we've got a lot of different grant opportunities. That's just a matter of finding the right ones, getting prepped for them, with our plan, and getting ready to apply for them after the new year. Any other questions or potential park ideas? Anything you would definitely like to see at a park in the future? I've got a pavilion, some like family meeting areas, we've got volleyball, pickleball courts, a potential RV park, or some tent camping, kind of campground areas. The signage, of course, more educational signage for birds, for the fish, you know, for the nature, the trees. So if you're walking around, you can point, no, that tree is a bodark and this one's a pine tree and native to the area. So a lot of those good things. Anything else come to mind for
Well,
anybody?
someone did mention, a launching place for kayaks. There's a place in Melissa now, a pond, that people are flocking there because it's the only place that you can just easily get your kayak out in the water. So I thought, and I did hear someone mention that lightly, but
Yeah, the kayak paddleboard launch, I think is a
Yeah.
good one. I've been hearing a lot about them.
Yeah.
And, I know we had, at least to my knowledge, there's been 2 tournaments to date on this lake. Both were kayak tournaments. So this is also a little bit of an interesting maybe a future rental location for the county where you can rent out the Shoreline for a kayak tournament, I don't know. But just thinking, some different ideas of how the county can make money and the people can rent it out and use it, so it's a good idea.
Let's make sure beach and swimming are listed in there if they're not.
Beach and swimming.
Also,
Beach
just
and
the
Beach,
small
swimming,
amphitheater might
and
be an
fishing,
idea.
always, yes.
The reason they have kayak tournaments is because they actually measure the fish in the boat, so that
Is
they
that
have
what
a
it is?
slot.
Mm.
Well, they measure like, they do it by length instead of do it by weight. And we
Oh,
have a slot out here, so you can't keep a fish over 16 inches, so
Right.
people don't wanna come weigh a bunch of little
I
fish in
gotcha.
a tournament, so.
Makes
The
sense.
kayakers, it's probably gonna get bigger and bigger every year.
Right. Yeah, just having an area where, kayakers are away from the boaters, your typical boaters is a big deal, because really the south side seems to be a lot more of the boating activity. Now granted, your kayakers are trying to get to the west side of the lake, so it's a little bit of a hike, you better be working out pretty hard if you're gonna make it that far, but hey, you never know, you never know.
There's a
You'd give them a toll
kayak
for about
coming out,
100.
stop.
You'd give them a toll for 100, wouldn't you?
Okay.
Not so much stay home.
Well, lots of good ideas. Like I mentioned, we're in very early phases. There's a lot of work ahead and there's no promises, but we're gonna work very hard and, hopefully end up with something that gives us public access. It's really the name of the game here is we want people to get in the water if they wanna get in the water. You don't have to have a boat to do it, is really the main goal here. Yes,
I'm
Jeff?
sorry, one
No
more
worries.
question. Judge Cunningham brought up on our first meeting about, opportunities where they were looking at the park as one option, and then I think Coffee Mill Lake and the Red River Boat Ramp, was that county money opportunity?
Well, number one, we were, Texas Department of Roads, Textile was willing to give us access to the river.
Okay.
Our commissioner didn't want to have to take care of it, and people on the river were mad at the Navy's that we would be putting people on the river, which interferes with their clock. So that sort of died. The other thing is we have, 2,000 acres available to us on Lake Fannin.
Oh, Lake Fannin.
Now, that is more towards the west, and that is, a fairly good sized lake. What would you say, Doug? 300 acres?
No, it isn't that big.
Isn't that maybe 100?
I bet it's about like 20.
I
don't know, it's been so long since I done that.
It looks pretty good size to me, but I think I've got a half acre tank, but, pond, but I guess the point is, that was offered to us. There was a bill put through Congress that said we could acquire it, and when we wanted to acquire it, we were told it would cost us, about $100,000 to do studies to make certain that there weren't any, Indian remains out there and to make certain we weren't gonna kill plants. And then, they said, but then after we've done that, you need to pay us some money for it. We said, well, let's say you transfer it to us. Well, their idea of transfer means we pay them $1 million and they transfer the 2,000 acres to us. And strangely enough, we've got a lease where we get to lease it for almost nothing and use it. So that's sort of stalled, and we've got the use of it, and the people who are attached to it are the people who used to go out there when they were teenagers, and unfortunately, most of them are my age, so they're not gonna be around much longer, I'll just say that in a negative way. But, so, those are the other two opportunities. I think this is the real deal. I think the other two aren't there.
Well, this one's owned by North Texas, and North Texas is willing to donate the land to us, so there isn't an acquisition cost for the land, which was not the scenario for Lake Fannin or the Red River. There were land acquisition costs, so that was.
Why were the three on the table? Was there money involved, and like, was there gonna be able to get?
Well, the idea, there was a bill put through Congress that said we would get the land, so we thought we had it. We didn't. It was represented at that time that we had it, but we didn't have it. It looked like we had it. Then on the TxDOT deal, the TxDOT deal was there, but nobody wanted a boat landing on the river. So you had pushback on that. Politically, this is the thing. The problem with this, but probably for me, there are probably 2 or 3 problems. Number one, it's on the far side of the lake. Number two, 3/4 of it floods. So it's, but that's nice if you wanna get down to the water with just your kayak. And the other thing is the maintenance on it. You know, I think we can develop it fairly easily to get money to do that. The question is, how are we going to maintain it? And I think North Texas wants some commitment from the county that we will maintain it. They don't want, something being used by us that turns into a dump.
Okay, I think my question's answered. I thought there was some money to be had out of, to put towards one of those three things, but there's not.
Correct.
Every dollar that goes towards this, we're gonna have to earn.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, in short,
Grants.
great.
yeah, in short, county's not really involved outside of the negotiation process. No money coming from anywhere but our own fundraising and the grant process, so make it complicated. All right, lots of good ideas so far. I know this is just kind of initial meeting, get everybody up to speed, get you familiar with this area. There's a lot of potential here and a lot of unknowns, but you know, we've got a lot of good resources, a lot of good people involved, so I'm pretty confident we'll get the deal done. It's just a matter of when and what it's gonna be, so exciting stuff. Any other questions or comments before we kind of move on from this topic?
I think I would like to see exactly where the 100-year and the 500-year goes, and if there is actually any property that they were willing to give us that's outside of both of those, because that would be potential for the RV park with looking at access to electricity and water.
And I've looked at that, the only area that's above the flood, and I'm debatably still in it.
500.
Correct, it's all in,
All
in, 100% in 500. The only thing above the 100 is a little sliver right here along that road in the trees, which realistically will be future bathrooms in my head. Because there's only a handful of bathrooms, it's the only thing above the flood that doesn't require extra dirt work. So,
So nothing outside of the 500.
nothing, correct. Hence why it's gonna be a little bit of a challenge for us to come up with some ideas on what's physically going to be here, because they are very restrictive. But maybe they'll give us some leniency, we don't know yet, on what we can do here. If it's different from their typical permitting standards, we are unaware, but we will get some confirmation and clarity over the coming months on those pieces.
State park over at Ray Roberts has like all campsites, they're all, every time I'm out there, they're all booked, so you can put a bunch of campsites out there for sure, and people go out there on the weekend.
That's the only thing I'll take business to, water district allows us to go to.
They just camp, I'm talking about camp, like not campers, but like. Yeah.
All right,
You might,
anything
you might
else?
run into the flood warning systems now that are gonna be required for campsites. If you're in
true.
those flood zones.
Yeah, very important, you know.
Pretty serious to think
We wanna
about.
make sure safety is top priority also, and, we're pretty involved, we've got Troy Hudson in the mix if we need him with the fire marshal service, and just understanding, you know, we'll have to prepare for responses here, because more activity means more potential for problems, so we wanna account for that. The good thing is, there are, I believe, 2 designated sheriffs that are being funded by North Texas for the lake patrol, so that piece is technically secure at this time. It's just a matter of them changing their routes up a little bit and understanding this is going to be a thing. But as we do advance, we will be meeting with the right parties to plan for emergency situations, whether that's at the boat ramp. They've probably already prepared for that realistically, but other things like campgrounds, if there's something happening in the swim area, if there's something happening at the playground, making sure we have the right protocols in place to make sure that everybody's safe and secure in that area. That's a good call, thank you, Dan. All right, anything else from the committee on this topic for now? We've got a lot of work ahead of us, I'm feeling ready. All right, anything else from the public before we're gonna move on to discussion item number 6? All right, we're gonna move on. This is just discussion only. I've got a few things to call out today. This is just kind of our typical housekeeping, new economic development topics in the county lake regions. So we do sit over the lake regions within the county. I don't have any updates for you today on Lake Ralph Hall. We've been a little bit at a standstill with their shoreline management plan. I hope in the next coming months, we see a little bit more activity from their zoning commission, some more activities around the lake overall with Upper Trinity, so more to come on the Lake Ralph Hall front, but for now, we got a few things, to talk about. There we go. Big shout out to Miss Melinda Allison for letting me come and present to the Bonham Rotary Club on the 3rd, so that was super fun. Got to give them a presentation just about the lakes in general and, you know, what the neighborhoods are looking like and all the builds going on, so really excited to be able to present to that group and just wanted to say thank you to Miss Allison for letting us do that. Also wanted to call out Hidden Oaks. This is a new development on Bodark Lake that is now guaranteeing their sale is gonna be happening June 20th, so not this Saturday, but I believe the next. So that is gonna be opening up to the public. It's gonna be 43 lots in a one-day sale fashion. So first come, first serve is the name of the game with those communities. Outside of that, I will advance here shortly, but we do have our first committee resignation and vacancy. So we get to go through the process of either allowing it to remain vacant or to fill that seat with nominations, but I will get to that shortly, and we will touch on some local city and county election information if you haven't heard of it yet. But first up is our resignation and vacancy. So Stephanie Liebel will be stepping down from her role. She got us to this point, so we're very grateful for Stephanie's contribution to the committee thus far. And she's stepping away to focus on her business. So we hope, you know, everything stays successful over there and happy and healthy. But moving on to what we actually have to do as a committee to fill this role. So we have two options in play here, and this is a discussion only item, so technically we're not allowed to vote. So this is really what's gonna take place next month for a vote. I will change this to a different item that's discussion and action versus discussion only. But option one is the committee next month will choose to vote to leave the seat vacant until the beginning of the year, which is the next election cycle for this committee. Or we have option two is the committee members can nominate a new member or members to fill the vacancy, and we can vote as a group at the next meeting on who we want to fill the role, and the consensus will win. So those are our two options that we're looking at, but it will be Stephanie Liebel that'll be stepping down from the committee moving forward. And we'll make a decision next month, action item wise, on if we leave it blank or open it up. We have that option. We have 10 sitting members with one stepping down. That leaves us with 9 committee members. We have 1 that sits in the commissioner spot, making us 10 total. Today it's 11, but 1 stepping down, we're okay to have 9 for the bylaws. So it's either vacant or fill it for our recommendations. But just wanted to call that out as next steps for next month. Any questions from the committee? I assume not. All right. Next up, city elections. I just want to call out Ladonia is in their runoff currently through the 13th of this month. So if you're in Ladonia, if you haven't heard about it, there's a runoff. You should go vote. It's between Russell Duckworth and Jenny Killen. So interesting stuff. I know Mr. Duckworth is on the Lake Ralph Hall Zoning Commission, so we're familiar with him. And I think Jenny's the new girl in town. So want to make sure, you know, we're up to speed on all the local elections, so we know who we should be talking to for Lake Ralph Hall related matters.
Didn't they tie?
They did. They tied 55 to 55 in the city of Ladonia. So how's that possible? I'm not sure, but they did it. So apparently there was enough people for a time vote. And they recounted it. They didn't want to do a gentleman's call. They wanted to go to a runoff. So they're in a runoff, and we'll see who the winner is. It's going to be fun. Outside of that, county judge runoff is officially complete. I know that was a long one. We're all ready to be wrapped up with that. And John Tynan is going to be our new county judge after the new year. So we're looking forward to the next phase.
Officially, he gets November as his election day.
Correct.
I think there may be one independent on the ballot, but I think he's pretty much a shoo-in.
Basically unopposed.
Correct. Yes, there will be another election cycle in November, but realistically, we expect this to be the future judge, starting in January. So good call. Thank you, Judge. All right. Last, well, I guess not last, but our last action item for the day is discussion And possible action to set the next regular Fannin County Lake Economic Development Committee meeting for July 14th, 2026 at 5:30 PM at the Darrell Hall Education Center / AgriLife building, which is the building we are in today. I guess I will ask for a motion.
What day of the week is that?
That is
Tuesday,
Tuesday at
second
5:30. Same day, same time.
I'll move for the July 14th meeting at 5:30 here in this building.
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
I will not be here
motion
for that.
passes.
I will be in Alaska, where it's much
Okay.
nicer.
Oh, yeah.
Hunting and fishing something good. Okay, I'll give it to you. All right, last but not least, our favorites.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We got a motion to adjourn by Di. We got a second by Di. And all in favor, say aye. We are adjourned at 6:39 PM. Thank you all.
Yeah, we went out every day.